Today, I'm going to show you how you can build a mobile app using AI. This is going to be hands-on. I'm going to actively take you through creating a couple of features on an application that's actually live in production right now. If you don't know how to code or you've never done mobile development, I will explain everything along the way so you can still follow along. I initially wanted to make the video to explain how amazing AI is right now. Like, we've progressed so much over the last 12 months. And I thought instead of just like talking and showing you benchmarks, I'd just show you actual real world use cases. This is the app that we're going to be taking a look at. It is a workout tracking app that I built because I wanted something to look and feel exactly the way I wanted it to track my workouts. You can add new workouts with predefined templates or create your own custom ones. You can start a workout where we've got an active timer. We simply click a button to mark our progress. If we get out of the app, there's an active timer in the background that we can click in to get back into it. We can complete our workout. That's the app we're going to take a look at. So let's dive into some programming. To get started, we are going to open up our terminal and I'm going to navigate into the directory that I have my workout tracking app, which is this one here. And we're going to start Claude up by typing Claude. And I like to use dangerously skip permissions. When you start Claude up, you can just type Claude and hit enter. However, when you ask it to do something, every single time it's going to prompt you for permission, like, hey, would you like to go ahead and let me read this file? Personally, on hobby projects like outside of my 9-to-5 work, where I don't need as much control, constantly having to go yes, 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 allow really frustrates me, which is why I use these permissions. Cool. We have that there. Now we're going to open up Android Studio, open up our project that we're working on. We kind of have 3 tabs here. So this one shows you the layout of your folder structure, all of our code in here. Then we have the actual code, which shows here in this middle area. And then we have our emulator. So if I hit Run App, in the right-hand side, we're going to see the application start up. Now, we can actually send it directly to our mobile phone to test on a physical device, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to keep everything on the Mac, just running locally. There we have it here. Now, to keep things really simple, because we are using AI for this, I am going to just minimize all of this. And really, we're just going to take a look at the front-end UI. So we're going to open up Claude on that side, and we'll have our emulator on that side. Now, what I'm going to do is enable Pro, so we are a paid user, which lets us change the color scheme. The first feature we're going to start working on is something extremely simple. I just want to set the stage for you. On our calendar view right now, we can see previous workouts, and we can kind of click around on the days, but depending on the color scheme, and especially on a real device, this orange doesn't look very nice. It's very solid, and it almost blends into the top bar, so we want to change that ever so slightly. And this is how we can do it using Claude Code. Simply tell it in English what we want. So we're telling it on the calendar screen, we would like to change the background ever so slightly. So I'm going to tell it to make it a little bit more transparent. Now, I did help it by saying use the alpha setting. You obviously don't need to do that. You don't need to know that context. You could just say make it more transparent. In fact, because I'm filming this video, that's probably what I should have done. But essentially, you tell it in plain English what you want, it goes away and it does it. When you ask it to go start working on a feature, depending on how easy or hard it is, it could take anywhere between 30 seconds and 5 to 10 minutes. Now, it does always tell you how long it's been running and how many tokens it takes down the bottom there. So in this video, I will speed up portions of that, just so we're not sitting around and waiting. But if you take a close look at my command line, you'll be able to know exactly how long each operation took. Whoops, I accidentally hit escape, so I'm going to tell it to keep going. So it's going to keep going. Okay, we've got the output. It tells us some of the code changes it has made directly in the terminal, and it tells us exactly what it did. Now we're simply going to hit this button to rerun the application, and we should be able to see the changes visually. If I go back to the calendar screen, we can see it's applied a lighter tint. I actually quite like that, but I'm going to ask it to set it even lighter. With AI-assisted development, this is one thing I love. I can just on the fly quickly try things and decide what I like. Whereas previously I would have to code everything out myself. Now this is actually a really easy one. I would do it myself anyway. But typically you'd have all these ideas in your head and you wouldn't have enough time in the world to see which ones you like. Now using Claude, well, I can try everything and then I can pick and choose the best one that I like. It's really cool. Okay, let's see what 60% opacity looks like. That's a little bit too light, so I'm going to tell it to put it back. Cool, now it's reverted it back to 78% opacity. We'll go check it out, looks good. We'll just change the color scheme to a different color, make sure it still looks good, and I quite like that change. It looks a lot better than it was previously, and if we go to dark mode, quite nice. Okay, now we're going to work on a feature that's a little bit more complicated. When we have a workout, we can have multiple exercises. So if I click into leg day as an example, you can see we currently have 3 exercises. When it comes to workout tracking, you have sets and reps. Sets is how many times are you going to repeat the exercise? And reps are how many times you're going to do that exercise each time. Let's say you're doing push-ups and you can do 20 of them. That would be 20 reps. If you do that 3 times, that is 3 sets. Some people like to have different set and rep ranges for their exercises. Right now, we have 5 sets for every single exercise, but in the real world, sometimes people want to do more or less. So if I edit this, and we put 8 down here as an example, we can see that looks quite nice. I recently allowed multi-line support, so it goes to the next line, and see how they're all in line? That is exactly what we want. But I have a legacy feature where previously we only used to support up to 5 sets. And what I had done previously is made it space out evenly between the available space. Now that we have multi-line support up to 10 sets, whenever a lower range is set, I don't want it to automatically space out like we see in leg press. Instead, I want everything to be nice and uniform and in line. So I'm going to try and explain that to Claude, and hopefully it'll just go away and fix it. Okay, I've tried to explain in plain English what I want. I even diagrammed it out down the bottom. So this is a good example, and this is what we have at the moment. So set 1, lots of space. Set 2, which is bad. Really, I just want it all lined uniformly. It's actually quite hard to articulate that out nicely. I hope Claude can understand what we are asking of it. Now, I actually expect this one to take a little bit longer than the previous one because it has to touch so many different components and think through it a lot harder. When you start working on more complicated tasks like this, one of the things that really comes into the picture is the context window. Typically, you get about 200,000 tokens, which is what they call your context window, and it starts to use that up. And you can kind of see that down the bottom where we have a little status bar telling us how much it is filled up. Now, recently, like as of 1 or 2 days ago, they did increase this from 200,000 to 1 million. So this might be less of an issue going forward. But it's always good to just keep an eye on that context. You never want it to fill up because then it does something called compacting, and in my experience, you get worse results after it does that. To get this nice little bar down the bottom, you can type /statusline to set it up, and it just really comes in handy. Now, this actually finished a lot faster than I thought. It only took 1 minute and 38 seconds. Let's refresh and check the results. I believe we were in leg day. Perfect, that looks good. Everything's lined up and it's got the white space. Now I am going to just test it out. We'll update it to 4. Add another exercise. That looks good. Now we're going to start the workout to make sure it persists on the next screen, which it does. And the final was the calendar. So viewing previous historical stuff, we can see it's updated that view as well. Very nice. Now I'm going to ask it to commit and push our changes directly to GitHub, and you're going to notice something interesting that happens. It's going to add the files, do our commit message, and push, but also I've got a git pre-commit hook established. And what that is going to do is automatically run all of my unit test and integration tests that I have set up before it allows us to push this up to Git. That means if we've broken something or introduced a bug, it will flat out reject the push. It won't push sloppy code up to our master branch. In a production environment, you typically work on a feature branch and raise a pull request and go through a different workflow. But in this example, we're working on a personal hobby project. I'm just committing directly to master. And we can see that all of our tests have passed. Now we can see we're at 21% context. Given we're going to start working on our final feature, which is completely unrelated to everything we've already worked on, well, we don't need any of that previous context. So we're going to clear it by typing /clear. That's just a good habit to get into to regularly clear your context when you don't need any of that old history there. And that's going to give us a fresh 200,000 or a million tokens, whatever we have available. So I'm going to just quickly set this up again where we go as a pro user, load some sample data. Now, the final feature I really want to work on is these icons here. If we start a workout, I kinda want this button to be a little bit bigger. And I don't know, I want it presented in a slightly different way. But to be honest, I don't actually have the idea fully fleshed out. So what we can do is we can use Claude as a sounding board, to bounce ideas back and forth, and I've found it really useful for this use case. I'm simply telling it my thought process that I want to do something, but I'm not quite sure. Can it give me some best practice suggestions based on existing UI UX patterns? Okay, it's come back with 5 suggestions that we can check out. Now, I don't want to actually implement all of these, so I'm going to tell it exactly which numbers I want it to implement. In this case, we're going to try 1, 2, 3, and 6. Again, we're doing a lot of changes in the one request, which means the potential blast radius of Opus making a mistake or not doing something correctly is quite high. That's why for this particular feature, you would have noticed before we started, we did that git commit, git push. Now we can be cowboys. We can go wild, let it touch as many parts of the code base as it wants, and we can keep iterating by just asking it to refine it more and more. And when it's all said and done, if we don't like it, well, because we had previously committed changes before starting, we can tell it to just revert everything in this session back to the previous commit. In fact, that's how I recommend you use this tool to make regular, frequent commits. That way you can track exactly when things were introduced, and it also helps with identifying bugs. Sometimes Claude will mess things up and introduce bugs, but if you've done frequent commits, when you go to investigate that, it really does help identify which commit introduced the bug, so you can get a sense of what caused it, how long it has been there, and then how to easily rectify it. That is finished, so we're going to reload the app. And it looks like it's introduced a bug, so... Now, this is actually quite odd. It's not often that Claude introduces bugs that crash the entire app. So I'm going to get it to just go ahead and resolve whatever that issue is that it introduced. You can see it can troubleshoot, it can run the logcat commands to see exactly what error caused it. Here it is going ahead to fix it. And like I said, this is actually quite rare. It doesn't often break things to this extent. What I have found is, in my use cases with this, it does most of the development work really well. Sometimes the code quality is of a lower standard that I'd typically expect from an engineer, but for personal projects, it works quite well. But where I have found it lacking is around edge cases and the testing. It might implement the core feature you asked, but might not think through all the consequences logically. All right, let's restart the app. Now, I actually think that looked terrible. That is by far the worst design I've seen Claude come up with. So I'm going to tell it to put it back to how it was. And I'm going to tell it exactly what changes I want. So we're going to make the button slightly bigger and add some labels. This is kind of how the vibe coding experience goes. You try something out, see if you like it. If you don't, you'll revert it back or you tweak it slightly. And you just keep iterating again and again and again. Okay, I think that's looking a bit better. Now, I don't know, I'm still undecided if I want those labels in there, so I'm just going to switch back and forth, see which version I like better. In fact, I can take a screenshot And we'll keep that there as a reference. It's finished, so let's take a look. I actually quite like this design, so this is the one we're going to end up with. I'm going to ask to commit and push the changes. That is finished, so that's essentially how awesome it is in a nutshell. I have to say the jump to Opus 4.6 has really been amazing and has enabled me to start getting into development again. Like, I had made mobile apps for a long time. I then quit just because it took so much time and energy. So I took a big break for several years. And now with Claude, I'm really enjoying it again. It's opened up a world of possibilities. Now, some tips for you guys. We've already covered the context window, the git pre-commit hook messages. That helps to avoid bugs. Now, if you're on the Claude Max plan, this probably is irrelevant to you. I tried the Max plan for a month and I found it was very expensive, but no matter what I could do, I couldn't use all of my usage. So I felt like I was wasting money. So I downgraded back to the Pro plan, but there are session limits. Within a 4-hour window, you can only do so much. Something to help get around that, because what I was finding is the session limits I would hit, but the weekly limits I was typically okay with. Well, what you can do is you can actually use the Atlassian MCP. So if we type /plugins, you have this concept of marketplaces, which lets you install skills. So if you head over to the Discover tab, now I'm actually pressing the left and right arrow keys on my keyboard to go back and forth. If we search for Atlassian, simply click that, which then installs an MCP server. This lets us connect into Jira. The very first time it will ask you to log in, but the short version is you can work with Claude, and as you're getting close to your session limit, you can capture any future work as a Jira card. So I might be approaching my limit, but I might have 5 ideas in my head. Using this integration, I can tell Claude, hey, we were exploring these couple of ideas. Can you capture them as a Jira card? Let me illustrate for you. In our recent coding session, we changed these buttons, but we didn't change the buttons on the previous screen, which is this one right here. Now let's imagine we're very close to our usage. What we can do is ask Claude to capture that as a Jira ticket. Now it's gonna go away and create that card for us. And here it is here. It's created our Jira ticket with a brief description. So now I can close my laptop, and the next time we go to work on it, I can simply tell Claude to reference that Jira card that we created earlier. In fact, I don't even have to remember the card. I can just, in plain English, say, hey Claude, we're working on some button feature. Can you check Jira, pick the card, and start working on it? And it'll go away and do it automatically for me. And what is really cool about this, and to be honest, I haven't done this yet, but I am so excited to kind of experiment and muck around with it. You can actually schedule things within Claude. So we know the session limit lasts 4 hours. So if we've finished it, we could set a scheduled task to say, hey Claude, in 4 hours, go ahead and pick up the Jira ticket related to the button. And why this is really cool is it lets us bypass, well not bypass, but it lets us get around that 4-hour restriction. But in theory, I could just have some scripts in the background where every 4 to 6 hours, Claude picks up a Jira ticket. So I could be sleeping and it could be working. I could be on the train into work or during my lunch break, and it can actively be working on things without my input. I get home at the end of the day and I can just do a quick sanity check of the app to see if I like the changes or not. This is revolutionary, and I don't know, it's really exciting, at least I think. Anyway, that is how I'm using Claude Code with mobile app development. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. I'll be sure to answer. And also, if you want to check out the app, it is launched on the Google Play Store. I'll leave a link down below. I'd actually appreciate it if you checked it out and gave me some feedback. I'm making the app for me, so I'm making it the way I want, but it would be really cool to get some user feedback and see what other people think of it as well. Anyway, that is all I had for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll catch you in the next one.